to Iran, where the suspected production of uranium metal has European leaders alarmed. Britain, France, and Germany have raised concerns, saying there is no credible civilian use for the element and that it could have potentially grave military implications. Tehran had notified the nuclear watchdog that it will be enriching uranium to 20% purity. Iran broke the 2015 nuclear accord after the U.S. withdrew from the deal in 2018, but has signaled it is willing to engage with the incumbent Biden administration. All right, let's cross to Nader Hashemi. He's the director of the Center of Middle East Studies at the Korbel School of International Studies at the University of Denver in Colorado. Thanks for joining us on the program. A number of European powers have come out voicing deep concern over Iran's plans to produce uranium metal. What could this be used for, and why is Iran doing this now?
Well, it could be used to produce a nuclear weapons capability. And the reason why Iran is doing it now, I think, is really to put pressure on the United States to come back onto and sign back onto the nuclear agreement. I think it's a negotiation sort of position that Iran has staked out as a way of forcing the United States to take a firm stand on particularly the incoming Biden administration to move forward in terms of signing back onto the deal.
So is the nuclear deal still salvageable, and for how much longer if Iran keeps breaching the deal?
Well, the breaches that Iran has undertaken in recent months, going back well over a year, are easily reversible. For those of us in the international community who support this deal as a step forward for international peace and security, the good news is that both the senior leadership in Iran and the senior leadership of the incoming Biden administration have both basically staked out the exact same position. In other words, if the other side comes into compliance with the deal, then they will as well. So it's really a question of timing. The big deadline, I think, that we all should be paying attention to is February the 21st, where Iran's parliament has stated that unless the United States lifts all financial, banking, and oil sanctions on Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran will kick out nuclear inspectors and then step up its enrichment program. So that puts a lot of pressure on the Biden administration to move quickly.
On Saturday, Joe Biden laid out his plans for his first few days in office. He also named the lead U.S. negotiator of the Iran Accord as Deputy Secretary of State. Do you think that's an encouraging sign, then, that the incoming president will make returning the U.S. to the nuclear deal one of his top priorities?
It's a very encouraging sign. The person in question here is Wendy Sherman. She's effectively the #2 person in the State Department after Joe Biden assumes office. And she was the one who effectively negotiated the 2015 Iran nuclear agreement on behalf of the United States. So she knows the ins and outs of this deal better than anyone. And the fact that she's going to be #2 in the State Department after January 20th is a very clear signal that the Biden administration is serious about re-engaging with Iran and wants to move very quickly to sign back onto this nuclear agreement. There are these outstanding issues, though, that could still pose a problem, such as Iran's missile program, its regional destabilization, and so those are probably going to be negotiated somewhere down the road. I think both sides are very much in agreement that let's both re-engage and get back onto this deal and make sure that the provisions are being upheld.
In regards to regional stability, what do you think this production of uranium metal means for tensions in the region?
Well, it's going to send a dangerous signal to Iran's adversaries in the region, particularly Israel and Saudi Arabia. But I think most reasonable and sensible observers, as I stated a moment ago, understand this move as a pre-bargaining position. I mean, Iran, in all seriousness, really does not have a nuclear weapons option. If you know anything about nuclear strategy, in order to have a nuclear weapons option to throw your weight around, you have to have an entire family and arsenal of nuclear weapons. Iran doesn't even have one. So it's pretty clear this is a pre-bargaining position. It'll create some jitters, but I think the big cause for concern among Iran's adversaries in the region is not this uranium metal sort of issue that has cropped up over the last couple of days, but Saudi Arabia and Israel in particular, what they're really upset about is the fact that Joe Biden wants to establish a dialogue with Iran and sign back onto the nuclear agreement and pursue diplomacy instead of war. That's what's really gotten, many of these American allies in the Middle East upset.
All right, we'll leave it there. Nader Hashemi in Denver.